Hey there folks, and welcome to another quick tutorial. I'm Xterminator, and thank you so much for joining me for this one. Today I want to cover 5 of my top tips for new players that is going to really, I think, enhance your gameplay and just make things play smoother for you and just be a better experience. Now, a quick disclaimer, I am very much an advocate for not giving away too much info for new players, or rather, I like to encourage new players when they ask about it to not look up tutorial episodes and to find things out for yourself. But with that being said, there are some things that are in the game that I'm going to cover here that I think are just very important and are just quality of life things that aren't really going to give much away and ruin your experience. In fact, I think they're going to very much enhance your experience and may not be initially obvious. So let's just hop right into it. The first one comes from, the first two really come from setting up your map and starting your game. And it's important that you do these before starting a game if you choose to, because once you've created a map, you can't actually change this without using a console command, which will disable your achievements and gets even more confusing. So when you go to start a game and you go to new game, you choose, this is going to be for free play. There are scenarios, but this is going to cover free play. We go here, there's all these settings. The first one I'm going to cover is over there's a few. So the first one is going to be in the enemy tab here. Okay, and this is something that some people don't know about and that I think would just be helpful in general. There is this option here for peaceful mode. And I do actually encourage you to do this as a new player. I don't really like to necessarily tell people how to play, but unless you just really want to experience the enemies and you just want to start right off with fighting, I would suggest turning this on if you mostly just want to experience the factory building and learn the game without a lot of frustration. So what peaceful mode does, it gives a description here. Basically, the enemies will not actively attack or expand. Enemies will still attack to defend themselves. And it says enabling this will disable some achievements. It'll just disable the achievements that involve enemies. So if you do want those, I suppose maybe you should leave these on, or some of the achievements that involve enemies it'll disable. However, so basically, to put this in another way, like this says, they will not actively attack, but if you go and attack them, so if you go up to enemy bases and you start shooting them, they will retaliate and attack you. But they will not continue to attack your base unless, of course, you lead them back to your base. So once you kill the base, then they're going to go back on peaceful, and or you just get far enough away and kill the ones that are following you. They'll go back to peaceful, and they will never attack you. This, I think, just makes the play experience a bit better for learning the main mechanics of the game without having to deal with these enemies constantly onslaughting you and expanding into your territory. Now, again, if you want to experience that, then go for it. Leave this off. But I know a lot of new players get frustrated with the enemies. Multiple people I've talked to, like friends who have started playing, they get really annoyed with them. So this is a great option to turn this on. Alternatively, you could just turn off the enemies altogether. If you just uncheck this box right here, it will completely remove enemies from your game. If you just do not want them, period, this is an option if you just uncheck this box here. Okay, so that's the first one. The second tip is in the advanced tab here. And this one, it is not enabled by default. I cannot for the life of me figure out why. I think it is just a must-have in my opinion. Is this one right here, research queue availability. So by default, you will not get this function until after you've beaten the game. However, before you start a game, even if it's your first map ever, if you come in here and you change this to always, this is going to give you a research queue. And the research queue is very simple. It just lets you queue up research. So you can, queue up research A and then B and then C, and then when A finishes, it will automatically start B, and then when B finishes, automatically start C, etc., etc. With this off, basically you will start research A, and then it will finish, and then you just won't have any research going until you go and you queue, and then you choose another one. So basically you're having to individually choose every research after each one finishes, which is not bad. It's maybe not as overwhelming, which I guess is the reason they have this off. But in general, I think this is just an excellent feature that will overall help you more than it will hurt you. So those are my first two that take place in this menu. Okay, now we're going to hop into a game, and I'm going to show you another one which I think is huge, probably actually the most important in this tutorial, but it comes after you create a map. So let's hop into that here. Alrighty, so in a game here, now this is a map I already have established. It's fairly built out map. Try not to let that overwhelm you, but maybe be a preview of what you could do as you get farther into the game. But what we want to look at here is what is showing on these structures and items here. So you'll notice if we zoom in, you'll notice a few things. You'll notice that, in this, if you've already started a game, this may or may not be different than yours. You'll notice on that these stone furnaces, that they have this icon, this copper plate icon over them. And you'll notice this throughout. You'll notice that these assembling machines have icons like a gear wheel icon and a belt icon on top of them. The box here shows a belt. You'll also notice on these inserters, which is a little hard to see with this stuff here, but if I pick these up, it's a little easier. You'll notice that they have this yellow-orange bar here, and then these arrows on the back. And then if we come over here, and somewhere in here I had one of these splitters doing something. If we look here, you'll see there's a little yellow-orange arrow right here. So what this is alt mode or advanced info mode turned on. And this is something, again, I just cannot for the life of me figure out why it's off by default, but it is. So by default, this is not on. So your game, if you haven't figured this out yet, your game is probably going to look something like this. If you've just started and you didn't accidentally turn it on or you didn't know about it, your game may look something a bit more like this. And as you can tell, or might have found out for yourself, it makes playing pretty difficult because you don't really know what's going on. You'll know. I mean, obviously here we can be, deduce that yes, copper is being made here, but like here, I would have no idea what's being made here unless I mouse over this, and even then it's a little confusing. Or I open it, and then I can, look, but you don't want to be doing this every single time for every single thing you have in your base. And especially as a new player, you won't have everything memorized and, kind of just muscle memory and stuff, so this will be even more confusing to you. So I would highly, highly recommend turning this on so that your game looks more like this. It'll help you significantly. And to do this, we go into settings, and it's in interface here. And it's going to be under alt mode. So I have turned all these on. I do recommend turning all of these on. Now to toggle alt mode, you use the alt key. Not surprising, but you do use the alt key. But if some of these are checked off by default, so even if you turn on alt mode with your alt key, some of this may not show up. Like I don't think the inserter arrows are on by default, so you may not get those unless you come in here and change this. So I've turned these on. This is for just all the options, so basically it just shows the arrows for anything that would show them: drills, inserters, pumps, stuff like that. And then to toggle it, when I toggled it off like this and then back on, this is my alt key. Now, you might already have come to the conclusion that if you alt-tab a lot, this is going to be an issue. And it is a bit. When you alt-tab out of the game, it will turn this off, although if you alt-tab back to it, it will have turned it on because you hit alt again. Alternatively, you can just change your hotkey. You can change like every single hotkey in Factorio, so if you just want this to be a different key rather than alt, you can definitely do that. Just go into your settings and controls here, and you can change it in there. But this will help you massively in the game here. Okay, now another one that we're going to cover is in regards to assembling machines and liquids. And I mentioned this is kind of a niche thing, but I mention this because I have seen some people be confused by it, and I was actually very confused by it when I first started Factorio, my first game. I was just like, I almost quit because I didn't understand this at all, and it was very confusing. There are a few items in the game that are made in assembling machines that also require liquids. Now, most things that require liquids are going to be in a chemical plant, which is like an oil processing sub-factory. I don't want to spoil too much, but there are a few items, and when you get to them, one of them being electric engines. This is the one I got stuck on. This requires lubricant. So this is going to require a liquid, but it is made in an assembling machine. Now, first off, to eliminate initial confusion of what it is made in, when you mouse over any item, it will tell you what it's made in. If it has a specific, so like some of these don't. Mostly it'll show you things that you cannot handcraft. So like this doesn't show you these circuits because you can technically handcraft them. But anything in red like this that you cannot craft on your person, it'll show you what it's made in. So if we place an assembling machine down, there's no fluid inputs, you'll notice. And if you choose any other item that doesn't require a fluid, there's still no fluid inputs, and this really got me, and it may be confusing you too. However, when you choose the item itself, it will add the fluid input. Okay, so this may seem obvious, maybe this is obvious to some people, but it will add it. Now, on top of this is kind of just a sub tip with this, you can rotate this. So if you hit R on top of it, you can rotate it around, or if you hit Shift R, you can reverse rotate. That's easier. But either way, you can move this around so you can align it whichever direction you want. It's not stuck upwards north here. So that's a really useful thing to know, just for the couple items that do take liquids in assembling machines. The last one to cover here is it's a hotkey that I think is just going to make your play a little bit smoother. And this is the people call it different things. I don't know what it's exactly called. It's either the picker tool or the I call it pipette. I think I'm pronouncing it wrong. Tool, where basically if you mouse over something and you hit your Q key, this is the default hotkey, it will pick and put in your cursor whatever you're mousing over. Now you do have your hotbar here, which you can set up and is quite useful. I actually find the Q key, the picker tool, to be even more helpful because instead of using a hotbar and going through different numbers, which is still fairly easy, or if you haven't even done that, going in your inventory and finding the item and taking it out here, every single time, you can just mouse over whatever the thing is that you want to use, and then it will put it in your cursor if you have it. Or if you don't have it, it will give you a ghost of it. And then to put it away, so if you want to get rid of this, you could either, you just hit Q and it gets rid of it. Then to do it over, to get a new item, you'd have to hit Q again. But if I hit Q, it puts it away. And you'll notice here, I hit Q and I don't actually have this type of inserter in my inventory. So it's just giving me a ghost of it, which is just kind of a blueprint, essentially, of it, a ghost blueprint that robots will build. I'm not going to get into that, but or you can just use it as placeholders for yourself. But anything else that you have, I'm just doing it over all this stuff that I do have. It'll just put it in my inventory, or sorry, in my cursor, and then you can use it from there. And this just makes your gameplay a little faster, especially if you haven't set this up yet, and you're just pulling from your inventory. This is significantly faster, especially once you get more stuff built out, because the more you get built, then the more types of things you can, pick up basically with the picker tool. In general parts of your factory. Like if I'm just standing in this area, I have probably 6 or 7 different types of items I can pull from just here that are very common. And there you go. That's my top 5 tips for new players that I think will just make your gameplay a lot smoother, less confusing, and just give you a better play and less frustrating play experience if you're new to the game. There are a bunch of more tips and tricks. I definitely recommend checking out my tutorial videos on my channel. As well as the subreddit and stuff. There's lots of cool tips on there, in the Factorio forums, of course. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, a like is also appreciated, as it helps other people find the video as well. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all future content. And if you have any questions or thoughts, leave them below. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.